In this quick video, I would like to talk a little bit about annotation and arrows, specifically three-dimensional arrows, and where the difference is maybe between an annotation arrow and kind of like a two-dimensional, three-dimensional arrow. So we can, for example, based on how you would like to draw it, kind of like make a straight line and then put an arrowhead on front. We could also say from there, like swoop, there is also an arrowhead, maybe with the tip rounded. We could also say, well, we have a line, maybe we could zoom in and then maybe project kind of like a cone in front of it. So that the arrow maybe is a little bit more three-dimensional, not just flat. And if we want, maybe just only use kind of like this ellipse so it looks like a cone. Different ways. And basically what we use those annotation lines for, we have somewhere some lines with descriptive text. It's basically a callout. We say blah 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 and then point to our interest. So these arrows are very useful simply to add a little bit of written information and then with the arrow guide the viewer to a particular part of the sketch so that they can link that information you expressed via words to a part of the product inside your sketch. So what about three-dimensional arrows? They're actually not for explaining a product or so, but more explaining, for example, emotion. So let's first actually do a very, very basic flat 2D arrow. So for example, a line and then an arrowhead there. Okay, maybe here the center I clean up a little bit. Good, let's add a layer above because currently this arrow is actually flat and I would like to shade it a little bit. So for example with hatching, can put down some lines and then maybe to the end I adjust the spacing and get thinner. So I'm basically fading out. Let's quickly clean this up a little bit. There and there, there, and here. Okay. So you see first the shape of the arrow is actually in the direction. It gives you a directional information. And then with the hatching, we basically also can add a little bit of extra information because of the tip being more shaded. It has more contrast and draws your attention to more. And then to the end, like this part of the arrowhead, we simply kind of like fade it out. It's maybe less important. This area here where this is really pointing to, that's the most important part. Okay, so this was actually just a flat two-dimensional arrow. And it's really good to practice drawing them in different ways. So let's say we would like to make let's make an ellipse. Yeah. So we have maybe somewhere, let's say an object there. And I quickly put down some fake ellipses to simply show you maybe that with this we will try to express actually a cylindrical object. Okay, so this is not prospectively accurate obviously, I'm just speeding this up a little bit. The main purpose is so you understand kind of like the process. So let's say we add another ellipse maybe here, there, because maybe the upper part of this object could be rotated. So how do we communicate that something can be rotated? So let me add a layer on top. So I will make maybe a bigger ellipse, a little bit like this, there. And let's say move it to there. And then let's draw, actually, hold on, I will use a color this time. We will draw a nice motion there. And maybe there. This is not very good because I can actually see the upper part already. So let's do it this way. There. Okay, so it has to stop because it will be behind the cylinder, so we can't really see it anymore. And there. Okay. It looks like an elliptical kind of like path. So let's first make this actually more logical. So for example, here we could draw a line and draw a line, because this should be not a transparent object. And this part we can't really see, but the back we can see. And look at that, it already starts feeling like a band. Before it was just lines, and now you start sensing that there is actually an object. In the front area also, here we have kind of like a connection there. Let's clean this one up. Okay, but we don't really have an arrow there yet, so we can maybe position an arrow at the end. If we want, we could even keep this one open so it feels like it's fading out. So where do we put our arrowhead to? Well, maybe let's say we do the arrowhead there. Let's bring back the ellipse. Ooh, we have to adjust the size so it fits there. Yeah, and the reason why I'm using this ellipse is quickly, when here's the midpoint, maybe there's the midpoint of my arrow tip. So, and the trick now is you can't really, or you shouldn't really draw straight lines. And the main reason for that is, if this is an arrowhead that actually moves along a circular path, it has to be rotated, so it can't be straight. So let's put those back to their non-existing state. Here on the front, quickly I clean this up. And so let's put down some really thin guidelines, so I have a rough idea which path I have to go. So there and there. Okay, so this is actually a little bit concave, so maybe a little bit elliptical, and then here same way. I will do this on purpose a little bit stronger so you can see what I mean there. Let's clean this up a little bit. So you see the lower arc is a little bit too strong. Let's get rid of this. There. Huh? There we are. If we want, we can disconnect it a little bit so the arrow is more in front of it, not directly touching it. But you see, if these lines are a little bit, just a little bit arced, it will give you much better the illusion of motion. And then we can, for example, fill this area. Maybe here now we just start spacing it out and try to do it a little bit more even. Unlike the way how I did it there. I don't like these lines. There. No? Question, however, is do we need it? Maybe it's not too bad, but maybe a little bit less jumping into our eye. Or we could maybe have done those with less lines. Let's see how this works, and now maybe could start spacing this out more. So you never know how something will look like if you don't experiment. No? Number one rule. No, that's not too bad either. Okay, so hopefully this kind of explains how this works. So let's say we have an ellipse maybe below. Okay, so let's put this one to there. Let's go back to black. Now we see this part. Here we only see roughly this part. Okay, so let's say that's actually a small part that can be inserted into our object. So, and the way how this can be inserted is, let's say, this way. Hold on, I have to put down some extra lines so you can see the shape. So, there. Okay. So in this case here, we can actually draw pretty much just a very two-dimensional arrow. I would try to do it at the center, because otherwise it might not look like it's moving in, but maybe moving to somewhere from a side or so. And then here are points, there. There. Obviously now I have to adjust this drawing a little bit because the arrowhead is already over the object, which is not really what I want. And also you see, maybe even in Sketchbook Pro, like I teach in class, I rotate the page. It's easier to draw that way, even on a tablet. And then here maybe some lines if we want to. We could also, these lines fade slightly out with less pressure. It's not necessarily always very easy to do. So let's erase these lines and then zoom. Okay. Let's keep it this way. Could also, for those who are more sketching nerds, maybe actually slightly erase the edge with a translucent, or not a translucent, with less erase amount, and then this way actually give you that feeling of the line breaking out. Okay, let's go back there, there. So we have to adjust all this. This is not correct, so this has to be at least there, and then here this part, which would be the object below, we have to position to maybe somewhere there. Now this is currently a little bit crowded, so I would like to move this one down a little bit as well. Yeah, this is better now. And let's see if this makes sense. If maybe here we remove this one, so I can actually, as you see, sense the arrow much better. Before, I get confused. Here, illustration-wise, this is a lot clearer what you try to express. So the top part can be rotated to actually, just a little tip. Now, just having a line is not really enough. Maybe in real life, the manufacturing line would be kind of tiny, but it's in the sketch, it's about storytelling. So I will actually, with the right color, add another groove. So it looks like there's a separation line, two edges, two different objects like cylinders, and they can intersect. Not intersect, they rest on each other and can rotate along the z-axis. So this is all good. Let's go maybe to a different example here. Let's take a look at what we have, because now maybe let's try to do something that is more perspectively correct, because like with the cylinder, it was a quick demo. I kind of cheated a little bit and drew more in a orthographic view, not really perspective. Because even in perspective, everything rotates and foreshortens. Also, that means also the arrows actually have to foreshorten. So let's say I will go make a new layer. Let's say we have actually at the front of this object a small mechanical part that can rotate out. There. Let's think about maybe a face or a component we could just rotate out. So to be able to draw this face, ideally I need a cubical box again, because this box will help me plus minus understanding how this actually will look. So in this feels kind of like a proportional square, so that this is too wide. Like this rotated up will go to there. Okay, so we have to also bring over this other edge there. Okay, and then let's double check quality of the drawing. These lines, these points have to match, and they do. Perfect. Okay, so what we have now is actually first the ability to sketch in kind of like, let's say, this front lid rotated down. So I will ink this a little bit stronger. There, let's go up here. Come on, don't flip out. Zip. And the last zip there. Nope, one is missing. Because to help you to understand that this is actually going into the object, we also need to see this edge maybe a little bit stronger. So now you can see, oh, this is actually open and goes into the object. Okay, so how do we do now the arrow? And I will do an arrow. I will quickly sketch it in. I would like the arrow to plus minus kind of like maybe look like something like this. And maybe from there to there. So I need to have a nice arc to be able to project it. And then all these lines actually go to the vanishing point. Okay, so that basically already gave us the main idea how we have to start constructing everything. I will actually work in blue so you see the different steps I will take. And number one for me will be finding the midpoint of this face via diagonals again, because once that is done, I have this, and then from there to there I can draw a line, from there to there I can draw a line, and if this is all correct, straight line down, and it should hit nearly. You see, there we have a square again. So why is the square very helpful? Because, well, again, to draw an arc, we need to have at least 3 points. So on this blue square, I will create a diagonal. So I know here's my midpoint, and probably the 1/3 point is there. So let's see from here coming up. Yeah, seems to be close. Let's actually try this one out. So there, oh, way too big. Zip, and there, a little bit bigger. Yeah, I see. Actually, my 1/3 point is not too far off there. Yeah, tick more rotated there. So perfect. Actually, pretty good. Okay, so I will actually do this one in blue. So you see here, I can use the ellipse tool. In freehand sketching, we don't really have an ellipse tool. We can have ellipse templates, but then you only have specific degrees, and that's again reason why to train your eye to draw those points for the 1/3 mark. Okay, so how do we actually now draw an accurate arrow? With red, I will place this one on the vanishing point and go to, let's say, down here. That is actually maybe the end of my arrowhead, and somewhere here is maybe the start of my arrowhead. The problem is now I could, for example, do something like this. I could say number 1 and number 2. It's a little bit more pressure there. Let's bring that template back. This a little bit shorter, this a little bit longer, because for shortening. And then let's zoom in. There, maybe like this. And there. Yeah. No, that's not too bad. Seems to work. But it's not necessarily very correct, because if this is a 3-dimensional arrow, also all this actually will foreshorten. So let's backtrack. So if you want to be a little bit more correct, we have to do some extra work, and I will do this in green so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's say from the vanishing point there, I now decide the distance of this arrow in the back. There, okay. There. And now how do I mirror this over? Let's see. No, same trick again for mirroring. There, this point cuts. So there and there. That other cut is there. And you see already actually how different this stuff is. No, do not draw a line. There's number one. And here's my line down. Okay. There we roughly have it. So maybe let's put down these other lines for constructing these green construction squares a little bit more accurate. And so how do I now transfer and figure out this arc onto the green and the blue, the two green squares? Not very difficult. So here, let's do it this way. I will in this case actually go red, and let's move this one to there, position it, and I will shoot from the vanishing point a ray so it cuts actually the arc here, and then continue where it hits this blue line. So that's actually height wise. This height we have there. So the reason why I did this was if I place this point to there and place this point to there, number one, number two on the green lines. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go to there and there. Zoom one line. Zoom a line to the vanishing point. So now I need to figure out, so from here to here, this distance, where is that there and where is that there? You see, these points are all on the same height. So technically speaking, if I now come from the left vanishing point and draw a line through it, there's number one and there's number two. See there again, they're all on the same ray, so zip and zip. Perfect. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I can actually put down my arrowheads now a little bit better. Let's bring back the ellipse tool and then see what we can do here. This purple has to be bigger. There. So you also see, actually, I think the way I rotated it now, it's pretty close. This is actually right now here the highest point and the furthest far left point, which is kind of like correct. So and then we can maybe go to there and see what we can do here. The ellipse obviously will be somewhat different. Yeah. So maybe a tick even bigger. Bigger. Yeah. Okay. Ching. Okay. There. So this is actually really nice. Now we can draw the back edge of this arrow. There we have most of the arcs. Now from this vanishing point, now we can decide at what point does the band actually stop and then turn into the base of the arrow. So somewhere here, somewhere there. How do I figure out now the height for those? So I could, for example, say maybe this width is what I like. Okay, so but how do I mirror this width over to the other side? And so let's see. How do I bring this over? I can draw a line. The line doesn't really help me much. And yeah, shoot. See it line down. Now I have to figure out actually how could I transfer this over to somewhere. So this is actually not necessarily as easy. So hold on 1 second. Sometimes I get lost in the silly technicalities. Oh, well, so easy. So from here, you see this is actually, this point is on this arc and is actually on this green plane. So straight down. Because so now I have actually this position. So if I say from there to there, I draw a new line and a line there. Okay. I could now decide, well, this is actually the depth or the how far they stick out. So there. So this I would like to mirror over to the other side. And I think in this case here right now it might maybe be easier to do it this way. So you see I continue this line onto this edge there, because now I can use our mirroring to this part. You see from there it cuts actually the center line there, and then here's the corner of that cube there. It cuts it actually there. So from there to the vanishing point, it cuts actually this line there. So then from here straight up, and there is my other point. Perfect. So let's ink these parts so they are visually sticking out better. Okay. Quick question. Okay, yep. So, and then everything that's kind of left, this is my bottom point. Let's get rid of all this craziness that only confuses us, and then we can try with some really nice fluid arcs. Maybe put the arrow down. Yeah, okay. Let's, for readability purpose, clean this up. There and there. Yeah, okay. Show the rest. Ooh, crazy. Okay, I have to here mark this point and this point, because we actually do not have this as an underdrawing, so to there, to there, to there, and this back edge we don't really see, so maybe one line down there. If we want, we can actually here ink this a tick more there. And you know, we don't really see actually this, how this part goes in, because this line here is hidden by the arrow. So I can actually, yeah, do this. So thin line, so a mesh line, and there the mesh line stops, telling you that the surface actually goes into a certain direction. Okay. So there we now have a much better constructed motion arrow that tells us that this whole lower part can rotate down along actually. Where's the other point? There. Along this axis. So a little tip to do, or how to do this by hand. So the way how I would work, because I still think these sketches can be done much better and quicker and actually more natural looking by hand. So I would not actually draw this arrow right over my constructed product, but I would take a new sheet and capture most of the important elements, which means this point, this point, this, and this point. So I can create then the box to create the arrow in. Create the arrow on a new sheet of paper, and then later we scan everything in, key out the drawings, and then in Photoshop we can compose everything, and then, like I do in Sketchbook Pro, erase certain elements. So for example, we don't see it. And let's actually go here to white, because I could also for example put down some white paint instead of erasing the lines below. So this is actually even now covering the back construction a little bit more. The downside of working on multiple sheets is, well, you have multiple drawings. No? You have then, if you have 3 drawings, you have 3 scans to do. However, the opposite, the positive part is, if you make one mistake inside one drawing that includes everything, you kind of can restart from scratch. And if I mess up the arrow, not a big deal, and just make a new arrow. Plus, if the arrow is not going to be part of the final drawing, I can make different arrow studies quite quickly without having the fear that I mess up my original drawing. So I think like the initial extra labor work later will pay off through a much better flexibility, and you faster being able to do quick ideations without having the fear to make a mistake and then redo stuff. And well, simply you get to the result you want faster and more efficiently. That's it.